I just found out how easy it is to create a confidence interval for a population proportion using the Desmos graphing calculator. If you log into desmos.com/calculator or just to Desmos and click the button that says calculator, for the graphing calculator, you just push the plus button here to add an item. Select inference. This inference, it's for the statistical inferential tools in Desmos. Click the Z test for proportions, the button I'm hovering over here. If you remember, our first example was someone was curious, an airline company was curious what proportion of airline passengers use mobile boarding passes, and from a sample of 80 such passengers, 60 people used a mobile boarding pass. So you simply put 60 for the successes here and 80 for the size of the sample, because that's the total number of customer passengers, and 60 of them used a mobile boarding pass. You click create test, and there it is. After you click this confidence interval button, if you remember, this was supposed to be a 95% confidence interval, which is the default. And there was the 65.5% and 84.5% for the lower and upper bounds, as we saw in class. As for the other examples on the worksheet, there was a female business owner. She owned a business and a website, and she had an ad on there and wanted to know what proportion of the people clicked on that ad. So 34 out of 200 people who visited her website clicked on the ad. So we wanted to create a population proportion confidence interval for that. Again, we would click the plus button, inference, z-test for proportions, and put 34 for the people who, of the 200 people who visited the website, 34 of them clicked on the ad. You click the create test button and select confidence interval. And if you remember, for this particular problem, it was supposed to be a 99% confidence interval. So I changed that number from the default of 0.95 to 0.99. And if you remember in class, our confidence interval was from a lower bound of 10.2% to an upper bound of 23.8%. The two problems that were at the end of the packet went over someone who was curious, administrators were curious about what proportion of teachers had a master's degree. And so clicking on inference and z-test for proportions, we get to the menu where we can add in the data for that problem. It was a 95% confidence interval we wish to seek for teachers with a master's degree, where 55 out of 100 surveyed teachers said that they had a master's degree. We create the test because this is a default of, this is the 85% confidence interval. We don't have to change that. And those are the numbers we got also. Or you would see in the key that I included at the end of the packet of 45.2% to 64.8% was that 95% confidence interval. Lastly, for the problem where people were curious what percentage of people supported a increase in a minimum wage hike, there were 568 out of 800 folks that said they supported hiking the minimum wage. So we put 568 for the number of successes, for those 568 people who said that they supported raising the minimum wage, and that was out of a sample size of 800. Create the test. This is supposed to be a 90% confidence interval, so we would have to select, change that box to 0.90. And after clicking confidence interval, and you see here, there's the lower bound of 68.4% and upper bound of 73.6. Pretty awesome, eh?